everybody. It's been a little while since I've posted a video, so I appreciate your patience. And I'm really excited about today's video because I am sharing my full journey and I'm doing it with antlers. Is that better? Lately, I've had some questions as to why vegan and why I eat the way that I do, and what my journey has been. So I figure I just put it all into one big video, and I hope you enjoy. So today I'm getting cozy with you and sitting on my couch with a nice blanket, and I'm going to share my story. My story really does begin at birth, where my mom at 5 months with me in the womb, apparently I was ready to come out. So I was eager and excited to be part of this world from the very beginning, but obviously that created a lot of complications. And when I was born, the part of the placenta was blocked, so I wasn't really getting the oxygen needed. The doctors told my mother that if I survived, I would be severely handicapped. I'm grateful to say that I'm very high functioning, but throughout my journey in life, I struggled a lot with chronic issues. And one of them being, when I was 6 years old, I had severe migraines all of the time. And as I got a little bit older, dealt with passing out a lot and seizures. And then once I got to high school, anxiety, depression, it was a really challenging part of my life. I feel like most teenagers go through, so many hormonal shifts, obviously. And if we don't grow up in a securely attached home, we have a lot of issues. Self-reflection issues. I hated myself, my body, and always was trying to fix it in some way. Trying to be prettier, trying to look stronger, trying to be better. And anytime any form of rejection came my way, I could not handle it and would spiral into some pretty deep depression. As I got older, I had more of the bodily symptoms, like the chronic nerve and muscle pain everywhere, stomach issues, reflux, Raynaud's disease, so the cold hands and feet, just numbness and tingling throughout my body quite often, dizziness a lot of times, vertigo type stuff, and just an overall sense of tightness in my body, a lot of fear and worry and anxiety just all of the time. So my body was in a consistent state of fight or flight. And then finally, in 2015, I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease and chronic Epstein-Barr virus, which is, mononucleosis just in a consistent form, like it was always active. And along with heavy metal toxicity, mold toxicity, and candida. Yeah, lots of stuff. So, and, fibromyalgia, but they do that because that's a I don't know what you have kind of thing. Once I was diagnosed with that, 2 weeks later, was married. And then 2 weeks after that, found out we were having our honeymoon baby, Eden. And so I was pregnant, newly married, and chronically ill. So my nervous system was shot, and I had no idea how to handle any of it because conventional medicine was just making me 1,000 times worse. And there was so much guilt and shame that I used to feel, that everything that I was going through, I was just a burden to other people. I remember having thoughts of just not wanting to exist anymore because it seemed better off for the people around me. Little did I know that all of those thoughts, weren't going to bring any healing, any change in my life or anyone else's life if I were to act upon that. And I remember a year after Eden was born, I let out fervent cries and prayer to God to either heal me or send me what will, because Eden was crawling all over me and trying to play with me, and I just had zero desire. Absolutely could not get myself to play. And I hated it. Most of that was also, I had severe postpartum depression, anxiety, and rage as well, which a lot of all of that was taken out on my animals and also just completely suppressed because I didn't want to hurt my child. Everything felt so shameful because postpartum, there's supposed to be so much joy. You have a new baby. This is an exciting time. I'm an awful human being if I have all of these feelings. So now I know that that's not the case. Women go through so many hormonal shifts, and it's absolutely normal to have these feelings and to have these thoughts. And there should be zero shame around it. And there should be so much more postpartum help and helping mamas realize that what they're going through is normal and support is absolutely necessary. Once I said that prayer, the next day, someone posted on Facebook about a Lyme disease protocol that shifted their way of eating and their diet and their lifestyle. And she was giving away a free ebook about it. And I clicked on it and I started reading it. And it really resonated for me at the time. It seemed really powerful. There was scripture in it, and all of it just made sense to me. It explained, how humans are so close anatomically to that of primates, when it comes to our teeth and our digits and our intestines, the length of our intestines compared to that of a meat eater, and our digestive enzymes and the acidity of our gut compared to that of a meat eater. And scientifically, but also ethically, it started resonating for me as well. When I talk about veganism and ethics, I am not judging those that make different choices than I do, because I 1000% believe that we all have the power of choice. And I desire people to feel empowered in their choices. But I'm going to explain my journey and my desires and why, what my perspective is and why I find it so vital for me to stay vegan. After that shift, I started shifting to raw veganism because in that protocol, that's what that taught. And I would say probably within a couple of weeks, my pain was gone and I had so much energy. I had never felt so much clarity in my brain, like no brain fog. And it was like I was high without drugs. It was amazing. And there's a reason for that. I mean, you can measure raw foods, actually all foods, in angstroms. So that's the energy, the electricity that is in those foods. And the highest angstroms are raw fruits, especially, and then vegetables. And then when we start cooking our food, we're killing that electricity and that energy. So when you consume raw foods, you are consuming that electricity, that energy. So your body absorbs that and runs on that. And, you know, we are also carbon-based species. So the energy that we get from healthy carbohydrates, that's our fuel, right? More of the proteins are, yes, the building blocks for our muscles. But you want energy? Eat a lot of raw foods. And a lot of people do struggle to digest raw foods because it's just, we're not used to that roughage. Everything has been so over processed and processed with cooking and broken down. So our digestive enzymes and the microflora in there, it kind of panics. It's not used to it. And our gut acidity is depleted from all of the drugs and the additives and the dyes and the pesticides and everything that ends up being consumed. Everything in our body and cells becomes depleted because of all of that toxicity. The reason our bodies struggle to fight any sort of viral or bacterial overload is not because of the virus or bacteria in and of itself, but it's because our terrain is not suited to bring our bodies back into balance. And I actually came to a point of understanding that that balance also needed to come from my mind. I plateaued on raw foods and was still finding imbalances along the way. One of my colleagues, after studying regenerative detoxification, said, Alyse, you need to look to the mind. And initially, I was like, what are you talking about? It's just body. All I see is body. I dove in again to what the mind could offer. And I am so grateful that I did, because that is when I discovered hypnotherapy and rapid transformational therapy. As soon as I started studying that is fully what shifted everything. It shifted me from being on a plateau to going up the mountain again. But then, along my spiritual journey and the awakening process that you go through when you're studying the mind, I came to the realization that we can't always just go up. We have to come back down and up and down and up. And releasing that control is where the peace came. One day I also had this vision come to me of when I was a child. I was 6. I grew up in a daycare. And there was this little bug crawling across the floor. And I took a piece of my hair out of curiosity and just thought I could maybe touch the very top of that little bug that was crawling across the floor. And it grabbed onto my hair, and in that moment I knew it was a tick. And so that visual for me was so eye-opening, because at 6 years old is when a lot of my issues really started to manifest. I don't know. Maybe it's a crazy theory. Maybe it's truth. Regardless of what has caused everything in my life, it's a powerful place to be in when, no matter what you go through, you're so grateful and so happy and content with your life. Is I'm not to say that I am incapacitated the way that I used to be. I was so bad at one point that my husband would have to wrap my arms in padding because the bed, I couldn't sleep on the bed. The bed was too hard for me to sleep on. Now, my body doesn't hurt the way that it used to. Every once in a while, I get flares if there's some sort of imbalance, but it doesn't scare me and it doesn't hurt the way that it used to. I actually give gratitude for it. So my journey was raw veganism, and there were a lot of ups and downs. So many things that I learned that I'm glad they happened. But I went really deep into regenerative detoxification, and when you go really deep, usually that means juice or water fasting for an extended period of time. And I don't regret that I did a 40-day juice fast, but I don't recommend it. Everybody's body is very different. And you know what? Some people handle it really well and they're able to come back from something like that and be able to digest things again. But for me, it was a struggle. I felt amazing on juice for that long. It was truly like I was on a different plane of consciousness. I felt so high, so loving, so free, so amazing. But everyone around me couldn't understand. And they were terrified because, to begin with, have always been a very slender human being. And through that process, I dropped down to about 83 pounds. I had no fear, though. I knew that my body would rebuild. It was hard to explain that to people that were not in my body and not understanding my thoughts. But again, I would not recommend that to anyone. I am glad that I went through it so that I learned what not to do with my clients and how to help someone out of that type of process if they were coming to me and needing my help with that. And so I gained a lot of knowledge just from the experience. Now I'm thankful to say that I've gained all of the weight back. But this is why I also don't advise people to fixate on numbers in the way of weight on a scale or body fat mass measurement, muscle mass. It brings us into a state of, if we cannot, quote unquote, measure up, then we will never feel satisfied with ourselves. And so I stopped weighing myself, and I just know that the weight has come back. I feel good. And now, after going through such a deep learning process, so many other parts of my life started to shift and change. I was finally coming into my own and understanding what it means to actually love myself and not just try to be a certain way because the other people around me had expectations of me. And when you do that, it starts to attract the people that are meant to be in your life, and it sometimes shifts you away from people that are in your life but aren't meant to be in a certain capacity anymore. That's part of why I'm getting divorced, and I'm very grateful to say that my soon-to-be former husband and we co-parent well together. We are friendly, and we now understand that we are both individuals on this journey, and we're very different, and that's okay. We respect that in one another now, far more than we ever did before. And so I'm really, really grateful for that and that part of my journey. Moving forward, there have actually been times on my raw vegan journey, and sometimes I just dabble in some cooked vegan too. I am no longer dogmatic about it. I used to be really afraid of it, of shifting outside of my new paradigm because it felt so good. And so then it almost in and of itself became an addiction, because through the challenging parts of the end of my marriage, I utilized food as a way to control things. And now I'm finding joy again in food and in just other aspects of my life, and it not being this like urge and that lustfulness and that need for this, because that is going to bring me comfort. I am now my source of comfort, and that's what I desire for all human beings. And I'm so grateful that the clients that I work with are coming to find that within themselves too, that safety within themselves. The thing about me being vegan now is, before I chose it for health, and it was only for health, and there were times when it was starting to sort of feel frustrating even within my health, and I kept sort of flip-flopping back and forth of, should I eat meat again? Should I eat? I feel like all vegans sort of have those thoughts at times, if they're doing it for health reasons. But then I came to this realization. It wasn't just health, because when you're part of the vegan community, you see so many horrendous things that are done to animals for testing on products and making clothes with them, and just the ending of their lives to be eaten. Some argue that even plants have souls too. And I had come to the realization that I didn't want to eat anything that had a soul. But then someone one day gave me that argument, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. So maybe I don't eat anything. But then it's like, well, hold on a second. Let's not get too drastic here. The one thing about plants, especially fruit, they are asking to be eaten by just falling into your hand as you pick a ripe piece of fruit. The ability to easily pluck lettuce right out of the garden and other herbs that are just incredible medicine. Even when you care for an animal and you humanely slaughter an animal, you love that animal and you build its trust. And then you break that trust by killing it. I can't imagine personally doing that and watching the life from an animal's eyes leave while it screams in pain. And I know in our society it's really challenging because there is no seeing any of that when there's a piece of meat on your plate that comes from the grocery store. If I can't physically go out, kill my food, I'm not going to eat it. Whenever I see a piece of meat, I see a friend. Energetically, and when we're talking about physics, quantum physics, we are all made of energy. And animals resonate with us too on an energetic plane. And yes, plants do as well. But plants offer themselves to us. Animals aren't asking to be eaten. They protect their babies. They protect their young. They protect themselves. And yes, you know what? There are some plants out there that try to protect themselves too, utilizing certain chemicals. The majority of plants, especially fruits, once they're in that ripened state and they just fall right into your hands, that's an offering from them. I am forever grateful for that symbiotic relationship with plants. For me, I personally know that my symbiotic relationship with animals is caring for them and giving them voices. So my journey has gone from health to that part in the unconditional love that I have for all creatures on this planet, including you, no matter what your choices are. I am so grateful and feel so blessed that I get to continue on my journey, sharing my story and giving some hope to those that feel as though they can't make it out. Because I used to be someone that thought that every single day. And now I'm not. And now I love myself. And now I love life. No matter what circumstance I am going through. And I know that can be you too. So I'm sending you all of my love and all of my light, healing, and blessings.